Phil Stacy back for another edition of Bandied About, our Salem News and Gloucester Times Sports podcast. Joining me is Assistant Sports Editor Matt Williams. It is Thursday, August 14th. Willie, what's going on?
What's up?
Not much. We continue with our Baker's Dozen Summer Series. To recap, if you missed our last podcast, we are our annual summer series where we try to delve into something that has kind of crossed the North Shore sporting realm, but it touches on each school or whatnot if we can, and try to come up with something interesting heading into the new school year. We are looking at the best teams from each of our 13 high schools over the last 25 years, which would comprise the 21st century, spring of 2000 to through the spring of 2025. Um, and because there are 13 schools in our readership area, we chose to pick the 13 best teams, hence Baker's Dozen, which is what we're calling our series. We've been through Salem, we've been through Beverly, we've been through Peabody, we've been through Danvers, had some great discussions on those. Willie, why don't you take it from here and let us know what we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah, where do you want to start?
Well, I thought today we could do Bishop Fenwick, St. John's Prep, uh, Hamilton-Wenham, and Ipswich. So as of this recording, none of those that have been out in print or in the newspaper yet. Um, but we've each done two of those, and we want to blind rank them for each other, right? So we get a pen here, and let's start with Fenwick.
Okay. Sounds good. So let's dive right in with the two most difficult, I think, to choose, and I'll go in chronological order
Okay.
from furthest away to most currently. And so I'll start with 2015-16 girls basketball team, Division Three state champions, 23 and 4. Beat St. Mary's in the North Final, beat Archbishop Williams in the semis, and then cruised in the state championship, led by the great Colleen Corcoran there in the front court. So it's 2015-16 girls basketball, 23 and 4.
Yeah, I do think of that as the Colleen Corcoran team when I think of that squad. And they were a terrific team. Um, as you said, they beat St. Mary's, their longtime rivals. Who was it? The Hoosac Valley they beat in the final that year, I want to say. Uh,
Yeah.
there've been a lot of great teams that Adam DeBadges has had over there, but this might be, if not at the very top, then at the top. I mean, I think the team they had a couple of years ago that wasn't able to play in the postseason because of the school-wide sanctions probably was right there with them. But I think this team has to be above them because they got through it. They won the title. I mean, Corcoran is as good of a player as they've ever had there, in at least in this century. I mean, she could do it all at both ends of the court. She wasn't, a 25 point a night scorer because they didn't need her to be. She was more of a double-double machine that got her teammates involved, locked it down defensively. Um, what do they have? Sam Mancinelli on that team, Jackson Nato. Yeah, that was a really good team. I'm going to put them at two.
Okay, very good. So just moving right along here, that's the next question is in the top five was 2024 girls basketball.
Mm,
No state tournament, 17 and 3. Now the three they lost three games, okay? They lost twice to Bishop Feion, once to Wachusett. Now those two teams played in the Division One state final,
that's right.
okay? Fenwick had been moved up to Division Two at this point. They
Hmm.
defeated Division Two state champion Medfield twice during the
Okay.
season. And so had they been able to win that title, you're talking Division Two versus Division Three. There's a lot of debate about who would win, who would have the matchups. Obviously led by Cecilia Kay. She scored more points, more rebounds than Colleen. Different kind of team, but
Different
graduated
kind of
with
player too.
1,713
Yeah.
points, 1,041 rebounds. You had Caitlin Boyle as a sophomore on the team as well. So you had two 6-footers,
Yeah.
which would be really difficult, I think, for anybody to match up with. in terms of the sheer size. So they are also in the top five. So you've got one, three, four, and five.
Okay. I think it's important to note here too, people sometimes might get the wrong impression about how big of a school Fenwick is as a parochial school. You figure, oh, they do well in a number of different sports. They have to have what, 900 kids? No, Fenwick is like what, 400 kids across all three grades, maybe all four grades. It's not a big school.
That sounds a little small. I mean, the graduating class is only 100 kids. I don't know, but it's
Yeah,
not huge. I mean, it's
I don't think
certainly
it's huge. Yeah. I mean, I could look it
it's a
up.
small fraction of the size of St. John's, which we'll get to in a little while. But while you rank them, I'll look up the Fenwick graduating class.
Okay. Um, well, I know we have some Super Bowl teams. We got a state champion baseball team. We got some, at least one really good soccer team. We had some great field hockey teams under Jill Spadorsha. Um, I'm gonna go four, only because four or five. Yeah, four. Great team, but we don't know. Um, there's
Yeah,
no
nothing wrong with
way
that.
there's no way to measure it against. Um, I guess the measuring stick is how they did. They beat Medfield twice, as you said. Their only two losses with the two Division One state finalists. So, I mean, at worst, they're probably third in the state that year. But that's speculation. We don't know. Yeah, I gotta go four there. Four.
Yeah, so they graduate according to the AI, which sometimes is wrong. 97 this past year, so 400 is right on the nose. So that's
Okay.
pretty impressive right there. And I will remind everyone as we discuss this stuff that it is important to note, right? Every school has what, 15 or 20 sports. We're dealing with 25 seasons, so that's round about 400 or so teams, right? So to be ranked fourth out of 400, 450 teams over the period at your particular school, pretty good. Pretty good.
And we
So
do take all sports into consideration with the caveat that I think we tend to lean a little bit more towards those. What was the phrase we used? Tournament bracket sports, where you have to win X amount of games through the tournament to keep your success rather than you go to a meet and compete against other teams that way kind of thing.
yeah, and I think it's more competitive. I base it on competition too, level of competition and things like that. But we can get into that more in the individual debates.
Okay.
I'll hit you next with Coach Mack, the great Kevin McCarthy. I think
Ah,
he
yes. I
at this
watched several of
juncture
those
ranks
games in the state finals that year.
I think he's third. I think he's third or fourth all time on the North Shore in baseball wins, which is nothing to shake a stick at. But probably his best team with a head nod to the '85 team, which we'll just leave that to history. But 2004, okay,
That was also known as the
division.
Mike Della Sola team, that 84, that 85 team.
I thought it was Russ Steves was definitely the boss on the boat, if you will. But
Well, I just think our
23 and
friend Deli was
3.
on that team.
Not only did they go 23 and 3, but in the state tournament, they outscored their six opponents by a combined 51 to 10. So, not a lot of squeakers in their march to the Division 3 state title in 2004.
No, and this is when what? You were you in college or were you yeah, you were in college at this point, right?
That's right.
Up in the wilds of Orono. So I was the baseball guy at that point before you came along and brought your excellence to the coverage that we have. But I did quite a lot of baseball back in those days, and I covered this team. I remember they won the CCL title. Um, I want to say they beat like three local teams in a row on the way to the North final. It was like Ipswich, Linfield, Newburyport, or Ipswich, Newburyport, Linfield, something like that. And then they crushed Watertown, I remember. They hammered, was it Hull? Hull in the state semis? And then I know for sure that Boyle beat St. Joseph's 4-1. I want to say that was at Bentley Willie. Don't hold me to that, but I want to say that's where they played that game. Yeah, they were excellent. They had terrific pitching. They had, as you said, they could put up a ton of runs. The first baseman on that team was that Harrison Buckstein, I want to say. Was he the first baseman on that team? Could mash. He was like one of the 400 guys. Jeff Giannino, no relation to Nick Giannino. The catcher was a great player. Surface. Yeah. Three, because I have one that I definitely know I want to put at one. So if I put the two girls basketball two and four, I want to put the baseball at three.
It works out. So next up in the top five, we've got going way back in the Wayback Machine, 2000, 2001 girls soccer,
Okay.
21, 1 and 1, 22 game unbeaten streak, first ever Division Two North title. In the playoffs, they beat both Danvers and Masco. Lost in the state semis, led by Megan Cook, who I believe is still the all-time leading scorer with 154 career points. She went on to a nice career at Boston University. Fenwick had a ridiculous run of girls soccer in the first 10 years or so of the 21st century. Really, going head to head with Danvers and Masco. Several 20-win teams, several North finalists, but this was the one
That was the
that was
Jose
ranked the
Isidro era,
highest.
right? For them?
Yes, this
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He had
particular
some
team
great
was
teams.
coached by Jose. Karen Gilmet obviously took over and had some success, deep playoff runs as well. But this is the one, the first one is the one that we chose for the top five anyway, and it's 2001 girls soccer.
Well, I think it goes back to what you just said a few minutes ago that, you're probably talking 400 odd teams in a space of 25 years at a particular school across all sports. So if you're number five, that's tremendous. On this list, we're only ranking one to five, but I'm going to go five only because to me, number one is pretty clear at Fenwick. Um, I mean, as you said, I remember Megan Cook being a standout scorer. I didn't recall the 22 game unbeaten streak. I want to say, wasn't Ashley Phillips the goalie on that team?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
I thought
younger
so.
player, but yeah,
Where's she now? Northeastern, right? Or BU? Northeastern,
head
right?
coach at Northeastern
Yeah,
these
yeah,
days.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, a fantastic team. And I think you made a great comparison of when they were playing the Danverses and the Mascos and maybe even the Beverleys at that point for North Shore supremacy. Five on this list, but I mean a tremendous, tremendous team.
So you've got one left, and I think it's a fairly easy choice. We've got the 2013 football team, 13 and 0, 510 points, which I didn't do the math. I think that's still a school record. They might have scored, a lot of points in 2019 or 2022, but not too many teams are scoring 500 points. That's for sure. 28 to nothing victory over Northbridge, which if people remember at the time, ESPN Boston existed and they were playing up Northbridge like they were Notre Dame, and Fenwick took them out to the woodshed.
They
So
they love
really,
those Central and Western Mass teams. Come on, like that
I
was so
believe Northbridge did
transparent.
win the Super Bowl the following year, so I will give them some credit on that. But this season belonged to Bishop
Well,
Fenwick.
I think they wanted to be
Nobody.
like, oh, you don't know about this team from, Oakmont or whatever. And I mean, hey, they're gone and past, so it doesn't matter. But
Nick Bono was on a mission this year, though. That's the
yeah,
thing. He wasn't going to be stopped, and he certainly wasn't. Um, you know, kind of an easy choice at number one.
yeah.
We used to debate with our old colleague Matt Jenkins whether or not this team, would have beaten some of the great Marblehead teams over the years. That's how good they were. And, somewhere, geez, I think is Coach Woods 3-0 now against Marblehead or only 2-0? Somewhere
2 and
Matt might
0
be
going into
smiling
this
about
year.
this
Yeah.
debate.
Yeah, Matt, that was a hill he was willing to die on, I remember. And, that team, as good as Bonner was, and I can say, Willie, that there have been two players off the top of my head that I think of that if they were, say, another 3 or 4 inches taller and maybe 25 pounds heavier, they could have been Division One ball players. And it's Nick Bonner at Fenwick and Jeff Vitale in Ipswich. Just both absolute wrecking machines defensively. They hit with not every pound, every ounce they had, they delivered killer blows. Um, Nick was really talented offensively, but boy, to watch him play defense was just something else. He was, what's the phrase, like a whirling dervish out there, just hitting everything. No regard for his own body, just throwing himself into players. And I say this all the time. Sports writers, you played even, you don't take sides or whatever. I'm not gonna lie, I loved watching him hit. It was great, but it wasn't a one-man team. I mean, they had what, Eric Rasney on that team. They had um, Tommy Parsons, was Charlie Mistrelis, Dave Hurley. I remember was up front. Uh, was it Justice Andre was another lineman they had up front, and that everything just came together for that team. They steamrolled everybody. And you know what I remember about that Super Bowl game was across the field where Northbridge was, their coach, who was very, very, very successful. I can't think of his name, but he had won something crazy, 300, I don't know, 200, 300, 400 wins, something like that. Been there a long time. And if you remember, he was wearing a sweater that was stitched that said Northbridge. It reminded me of like the old Mike Ditka and Buddy Ryan, like the Bears sweaters they wore in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. It was a little bit outdated by 2013, but maybe it was like a good luck sweater for him or something. Anyway, I just remember looking at that and thinking, there is no way Fenwick is losing to this team. That's just not happening. And from the opening snap, they dominated that game. So there, yeah, it's neat. That was honestly as an easy and number one on this list as there probably is.
Yeah, they got a match. So we got a match. 1 through 5 is a match.
Everything
So not
matched?
not really a lot of debate here.
Okay.
I'll run down some of the others. The Mike Clifford basketball team was number 6, 20-3. Tough to leave them out of the top five, but North Final is technically the Elite Eight round, so not as far as some of these other teams.
Can you imagine
$2013.
if you told somebody in the late 20th century that we'd be doing this now and there wouldn't be a Fenwick boys basketball team in the top five just because of all the success they had in, let's say, the last 15 or so years of the 20th century?
Yeah, that happened. I mean, it's that's yeah, interesting, certainly. But 2,000 point scorers on that team. We had a volleyball team at number 7 that won the North title.
Another
Super
Badgers
Bowl
team.
winner at number 8. Tough softball too. I mean, Fenwick, tough to get a softball team on there. They were two that you know, had good playoff runs led by really good pitchers, Jackie Collier and Taylor Ahern. We went with the Collier team because she threw a perfect game in the North Final. I don't know how often that happens. That was pretty impressive. So that kind of rounds it out. People can check out the rest of the top 13 there online and in the newspaper. But you want to should we move on to the group the parochials together, or you want to jump like over to Ipswich now?
Yeah, you know what? Let's jump over to Ipswich just to mix it up a little bit.
Okay.
I can do that one if you'd like.
Yeah, let's get through it.
Okay. So Ipswich, you know what? For a small school, they've had a lot of success this century. And I think they're a team or a school, I should say, that's definitely benefited from the, I guess, 4 years in, I'm still calling it new, but the new statewide playoff format. They're up against a lot of schools that are similar to size in them, many of those out in the central and western part of the state, and they have flexed their proverbial muscles to show what they can do. All right, Willie, so I am going to go and start with the 2004-2005 boys basketball team, coached by the late, great Doug Woodworth, of which his son Justin was the star player. 6'2" forward, averaged almost 25 points a game. They had Steve Fanoff, who was a great football player, but he was such a great athlete. He jumped center for this team. He wasn't particularly big, but he jumped center. They had James Lampropoulos, Nick Lehman as the guards. They went 20-4. They won the Division Four state title, first boys basketball title for Ipswich in 36 years. They beat Westport at the Garden 68-58 after a couple of real tight North semifinal and final wins where they beat Savio Prep by 4, and then Minuteman, which always seemed to be a burr in their saddle, they beat them by 2 in the sectional final. So let's call it '05 boys basketball.
I put him number 2. I'm gonna put them number two. I think they're legit. I think, you see sometimes these Cape Ann teams will go into the Division Four playoffs with, six, seven, eight, nine losses and just run the table because the schedule is so good, right? But that they went 20-4, that means they beat a lot of teams in the large. You got to realize how good the Cal usually is at basketball. Newburyport's usually really good. Masco was in the Cal at the time. Wilmington. North Andover, right? Basketball powerhouse hadn't left for the MVC at this time. So to win 20 games against that schedule and Woody was legit. I can't remember where he went to college. Maybe it was Endicott or something like that, but he had a great college career too. Woody did. So I'm going to put them at number two. I think they're pretty legit.
They were definitely legit, and because it was a Division 4 game, I remember they played, mid-afternoon. They were the first of game of the day, and it was rocking there. And you had to feel so good for Doug too. I mean, he bled Ipswich everything. He coached football, obviously basketball. I want to say he coached softball for a time too. Might have helped out with baseball. Great guy. Sadly he's no longer with us. But really happy for him and his team. I want to say Justin went to Salve Regina, but don't hold me to that.
That sounds right. Yeah, I mean, it was a CCC team, but he had a great career there. I mean, he
Yeah.
wasn't just a bench guy. He was, great, great player. So he could have played for anybody around here. That's for sure.
Okay, I'm going to move over here to the 2022 volleyball team. Ipswich has won four straight Division 4 state volleyball crowns and counting. This was the second of those four. And I think this is where they kind of started that. If not, I mean, what do you need to win? Three in a row to be a dynasty? But this showed like the mettle and fortitude that they had. Um, Great team, 21-2. They obviously were defending state champs. They won the Cape Ann League. What really set this team apart was the state final. They played Joseph Case High School out of, I wish I knew off the top of my head, somewhere down the South Shore, and they were trailing 2 sets to nothing. And Case had all the momentum. This was out of Worcester State, where you and I have both been for some volleyball finals. It's a pretty good atmosphere there. It's the right size, in my opinion, for an MIAA final because you can pack it there, and it looks, you get that big game feel. Crowds on both sides are going crazy and all. So, Case was, not to use a pun here, going in for the kill. And Ipswich rallies. They take the third set, they take the fourth set, they force a deciding fifth set. They're a point away from the championship before they give up four in a row. Now Case is a point away from the championship. You got to win by two, and Ipswich comes up clutch, gets the next 3 points, wins it. Claire Buletza, Addison Pillis, Kendra Brown, Tess O'Flynn, you go across the board. A great championship win for a great championship team, really, the 2022 Ipswich Tigers volleyball team.
I put him five. I mean, great win. We're not ranking. This isn't best games, right? I mean, great game, great match, and all that.
Hmm.
But I'm gonna put him five. I mean, what was their record?
21-2.
So pretty good, but Division Four volleyball. I mean, just I'm gonna put him number five.
Okay. Let's say the 2017 boys lacrosse team. Okay. They went 20-2. This is the third straight season. They had won the Division 3 North title, but had been knocked off in the semis each of the first 2 years. This time, however, they get the job done. They win the state title. They win the semifinal by a goal over Hanover. Hanover had tied it with 20 seconds left. Ensuing faceoff, Charlie Gillis, who wasn't like a big name scorer on this team. I mean, those guys were Killian Morrissey had 74 goals. Tommy Ginolfi had 41 goals. Dookie, geez, I'm going to blank on his, pronounce his Crixianis, had, I want to say, 50 or 51 goals. Pat Gillis, his brother, had 52 goals. But Charlie was the faceoff ace. He wins the faceoff, notices there's nobody there on him, sprints straight downfield, shot, score. They win the game, dramatic fashion. Then they win the state final by a goal over Grafton, 8-7. a team that had won 22 games. So, second state title for Glenn Foster and his Tiger program, 2017 Boys Lax.
I would put him number three, because I think I have an idea of what's going to be number one for me. But again, just looking at the schedule, looking at the number of wins, I mean, I just think the teams that you're beating in a Cape Ann League, and in that division, I mean, we all know how good Grafton is, and the kind of teams from up north that they've chewed up and spit out over the years. So I think just really impressive. Some all-decade type kids there that you mentioned in Gillis and was it Morrissey? So I'm going to put them number three.
Okay. Let's go back to the hard court for the 2023 volleyball team. They were the third of Ipswich's four straight championship teams. And what makes this one special, Willie, in my opinion, was it was Stacy was Sankey, got married, became Lawrence. So Stacy Lawrence's last team before she left at the end of the year. She took a coaching and teaching position in Texas, where she is doing very well down there. But this was her final team, and they ended up 23-0. They did not lose at all. Third straight state championship. Again, they had to rally in the final. They were trailing Bellingham 2-1. They won the fourth set, and then they took care of business in the fifth set there. They didn't lose many sets all season. They had almost 800 kills as a team, averaging more than 10 per set. Some all-time future Hall of Famers on this team. We mentioned earlier Claire Buletza, Addison Pillis, Tess O'Flynn, Ella Stein was another captain. Emily Hannibal was a great player, Alex Marino. This was just a buzzsaw of a team, Willie. 2023 volleyball.
I'm going to put them at four. I got an idea of who I want at number one. And so I'm going to slot them in there at four. I mean, undefeated probably could have been two or three. But just given the level of competition, and some of the some of the other stuff. I mean, you'll see as we do these lists that I tend to lean towards the teams from the first 10 years of the decade,
Yeah,
and we'll talk a lot more about that with St. John's. I just think high school sports in general were a lot better back then, and so that's going to be where I go with this. No knock on this team. The best, and again, I think what you mentioned about not only did they win every match, but I don't even think they never went to a tiebreaker, and they only went to four sets, like what a handful of times. You can count it on one hand.
I
So
think like,
as
yeah, four
dominant a
times.
team, as dominant a team as you'll find. But that's the that's the precipice with the blind rankings. If you let off with them, I might have put them two or three, but four is the spot I have left, so that's where they go.
Okay. I respect it. And I do like that we both take different tacks with this. And it's not that I don't look back fondly in those teams from earlier in the century. But for me, it's more domination, I think, in a lot of cases than anything else. But um, you can certainly make an excellent case for this last team. And of course, we're talking about the 2006 Super Bowl champions, football team from Ipswich. Very deceiving record. They were, I mean, deceiving in a way. They went 10-2, but those two losses were by 3 points to much bigger Cape Ann League schools, Wilmington and Masconomet. So pretty good right there. Then you throw in the fact they had seven shutouts, which is a school record. They shut out both of their playoff opponents. They ran for over 2,900 yards in that wing T attack that Jack Welch had made popular decades before. This was, of course, one of his former players, Teddy Flaherty, running the Tiger show at this point. Um, Alex McCarthy was a huge part of that defense. He was a captain. I want to say there were like 10 seniors on that defense that year, which, I mean, come on. They gave up, Willie, okay, 5.9 points per game. This is like, I don't remember if you used to see those Globe stories. It would be like, oh, 1908 Everett, shut out their opponents, 600 to nothing, literally in like 1908 or something like that. This is like the modern equivalent of what was that 76 Peabody team we've talked about before that gave up like a crazy low number of points, like
Yeah, the
42
Leather
points or
Curtain,
something all season.
something like that. And it were and like, and I think like. more than half of it was on Thanksgiving because Zafa didn't want to go to the Super Bowl. But that's a story for another day.
Okay. Imagine not wanting to go to Super Bowl, how times have changed.
It was all done. They didn't get paid. It's like the Europeans in hockey. They didn't get paid.
Yeah. Um, so you give up 5.9 points a game. I don't care. Like we've talked about several good football teams in this so far. We'll talk about some more in another podcast or two. But that is crazy good. I don't care what divisional level you're playing at. 5.9 points a game is crazy. Kevin Michaels, Kevis Reed, Matt Antonucci, Andrew Ruda, Ryan Gagnon, Dan Curley, all these great guys on that defense there. We mentioned earlier Steve Fanath. He was the superstar on offense of that team. He was a great safety, but he really made his bones out of the backfield. 1,634 yards, 25 rushing touchdowns, had the only score in that Super Bowl win, 7-0 over Cape Cod Tech Harwich. And they are your number one, Willie, obviously.
Yeah, and the reason is, the losses. The reason for me is the two losses. I think you lose to Masco by what was it, 1 point, and Wilmington by 2 points. And people got to go in the way back machine and just remember how good Masco and Wilmington were in this era, 2006. Masco, under Jim Pugh, this was sort of the middle Bunker years. Okay, Chris Splinter's freshman year, so it was Eric Bunker running for all the yards before his little brother Evan broke all of his records. I think Craig Bunker might have been the quarterback. He was the professional lacrosse player. You think about Ipswich now, and Ipswich for most of the middle portion of the 21st century, the 2010s, and the idea that they could be on the same field with Masco and Wilmington. I mean, it sounds crazy, right? So how good did they have to be within a point or two punching above their weight class of these teams? I mean, Masco only lost to Winthrop in the playoffs by a touchdown. Winthrop beat just about everybody in the NEC.
Yeah.
And I know it's a dangerous game to play the, opponent miss and match because styles make fights and it doesn't always work out this way and this and that. But if you transitive property the whole thing, that means Ipswich would have only been a point or two away from most of the teams in the NEC that year too, right? Which
Yeah.
so to me, that's where I lean towards this 2006 Super Bowl team, which is no knock on any of the other teams. I just look at the teams that they played and the fact that they were able to knock heads and it's almost like Rocky 1, right? Like they went the
Yeah.
distance with Apollo against Masco and Wilmington. And to me, that's worth so much. And also, I just have so much respect for Ted Flaherty's defensive mind. He is just as good as they come. Geez, I got to tell you, the coaching on this list, Flaherty, Woody, you won't find a better coach for
Foster.
team.
Yeah.
All respect to Pinch on and the fellow that just went to take over Beverly, and maybe it'll be a repeat. But when you have Glenn Foster and Peter Giannolfi on the same sideline, I mean that's like getting Belichick and Parcells back together, isn't it? I mean, there might not be a better coach team in history than that one, and
That's
obviously
a great reference. Yeah.
Stacy's reputation precedes her as well. I mean, had she not moved to Texas, she'd be starting to put championship rings on her toes at this point. So
Well, and it didn't
it-
stop last year with Brian Reed taking over. I mean, they went 23-0 again. They won another state title,
exactly
and I want to say they only dropped one out of a possible um 16 sets in the playoffs. They went 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, 3-1. So,
something like that. It's crazy. I mean, it's
just a
just
couple
well
other
schooled.
teams that we considered here, and this one goes towards your like back in the day, the competition they played, 2003 boys lacrosse state champions. They went 8-5 in the regular season, but they were in a league with Beverly and St. John's and Peabody. That was the league because there weren't a ton of teams at that time. So
Only
they went,
13 games too. That's crazy.
yeah, I know, right? And they went down to the Vineyard and beat Martha's Vineyard 6-5 for the title. Girls lacrosse has had some great runs recently under Allison Tivnan, the 2023 team. Went to the state final, lost by a goal. 2021 field hockey went to the state final, lost by a goal. Indoor track and field state champion for the girls. Uh, Back-to-back state champions, 2001, 2002. So a lot of good teams here in Ipswich. And the 2002 20 football team was one of those COVID years where, they only got to play 6 games, but they won all 6. They crushed just about everybody they played. Had a dramatic win over Hamilton-Wenham on their Thanksgiving game. Won the Cape Ann League, so that was a good team too.
Yeah, it would have been fun to see them match up. But
Yeah,
who's next?
let's do Hamilton-Wenham.
All right, the gents. Let's lead off. Let's lead off with the runners. 2008 girls cross country, Division two All-State champions. Division four state meet. They set an all-time record for lowest score. All 5 runners finished in the top 10, and then the following week they win the Division two All-State title, led, of course, by the great Emily Lenoy, who won 4 consecutive individual Division Four titles in the Eastern Mass races. Went on to run at Columbia, and her younger sister Allison was the number 2 runner on the team.
Okay, that's right. They had both Lenoy girls on that team, didn't they? Um, let's go with number 3. That sounds like a good spot for them.
Sounds good to me. I'll hit you now with the tennis team, 2022 girls tennis. Now, it was hard to choose. They're in a run of 4 consecutive state championship teams. Some of them were undefeated, some of them were not. There was one team that only had 1 loss, but it was to the Division two state champs. So, how do you hold that against them? But anyway, the team in the top 4 is a 2022 team that did go undefeated, 23-0. Of course, Naomi Provost was on all 4 of the teams, so she was holding down number 2 singles on this one. Sky Jara was a number 1 singles player. They had seniors all over the place. Chloe Gurn, who I think was the nominee for our Student Athlete Award at number 3. So Joe Mar's team only dropped 3 points the entire state tournament and went
Okay.
23-0 to win the state title.
Okay, so I have 4 other teams I'm thinking could be in those other 3 spots and where I'd want to put them. So I'll put them at 4. Yeah, 4. 4 is a good spot for them.
Let's stick with it. Joe Mar. Joe Mar. I'm gonna have to do some research. Maybe at the end of our series, we'll line some fun facts for you. Now, I'm trying to think if there would be another person who coached 2 different teams that are on the list, right? So we've had, again, Stacy Sonke coached 2 teams. They were on Ipswich's list, but they were both volleyball teams. Joe Mar, back in 2009, was coaching the boys tennis, and he led them to the state championship. Their first and only. They went 18-2. The team's current coach, Ian McCracken, was on the team. He was a part of a doubles team that finished unbeaten over their last 2 years. So this was Division 3. At the time, they were not 4 divisions, and
Okay.
it's the '09 boys tennis champs.
Okay, now this was one of the 4 that I thought, but that means one of the other 3 obviously will not be in. And I'm a little bit flummoxed here as to which one that might be. So I guess I have to go 5 because I'm wondering who you might have left out in that top. But yeah, 5 for the boys tennis.
All right, let's hit 2014-15 boys basketball. Doug Hoke's final season,
Unbeaten.
25-0.
Yeah,
Zagorowski twins, Jimmy Campbell. They won 21 of their 25 games by double digits. Destroyed just about everybody they played. And the crazy thing is the 2 boys were freshmen.
that's right. The 2 Zagorowskis were both freshmen. That's right. And I think people forget how good Max was too. I mean, Marcus got a lot of the attention and went to Creighton. And did he get drafted? He did,
He
right?
did.
He got drafted, yeah. But Max was a good player in his own right. And didn't he play Division 1 as well?
Sure did. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Great 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
Tremendous.
So I mean, number 1, perfect. I mean, Dougie Hoke, one of the all-time class guys, great person, great coach, basketball, baseball, led 2 teams to the finals. He led a baseball team back in 1990, 91, I'm sorry. My first year on the job, my first full year on the job. 1991, he led them to the state finals against Narragansett in baseball. Yeah, like you said, with all the dominance they won by double digits and whatnot, smoked everybody in the playoffs. Yeah, number one, easy. So now I'm curious as to what's number two. I think I know what it's going to be, but I'm surprised by one that's left off if it is.
So we got the 2021 girls soccer
Yeah. Okay.
Division 4 state champions, 18-1-2,
Yeah.
outscored their opponents 71-15. Jane McGuire, Claire Nistel combined for 42 goals and 60 points.
Missile to missile all over the field. Yeah.
Had to beat Cohasset in overtime to win the state title, as exciting as it gets. But I mean, again, you look at the Cape Ann League to go 18-1-2 against that schedule, just pretty impressive. They had some really good soccer teams over the years. I mean, just this last year in 2024, they went back to the state final and lost. Back in 2005, they made it all the way to the state final and lost. Had an undefeated team in 2023 that lost in the final four, but you win the whole thing and you go 18-1-2. You get a spot on the list, and where you have left is number two.
Yeah. Two's good for me. I guess the
So
one
again, that's
team
a
I
match. That's exactly the top five that I had. So we're the blind are seeing today.
okay. I guess I'm just surprised that 2011 football didn't get in. I know they didn't win a title, but I think that comes with a giant asterisk. Um,
Yeah, number six, number six. And again, yeah, I mean, I
okay.
think you can make a case to flip them with the boys tennis team. I think you really can. I think it's close, really close. And just looking at some of the other pages and whatnot, I mean, it seemed like we were kind of leaning towards the championships, and
Yeah.
we know
Yeah,
they
no, no,
they
yeah,
probably
yeah.
they probably win the whole thing if Lions doesn't get hurt. But number six, yeah, nothing wrong with number six. Number six, pretty good spot.
And in real recent history, the baseball team from the spring had a great run.
Adam number seven. And that's the tough thing with all these teams. I mean, do you put all four tennis teams on there, and then does that eat up the whole thing? I mean, I just thought that was kind of, we put two of them on there when the lineups kind of changed, but yeah, it does become so similar. We really want to represent, I think, a wider swath of school history than eating up spots with so much. Same thing for the cross country and the track. I mean, I feel
Yeah.
like we could have put, more teams. I mean, but how many times can Emily Lenoy be on the list? I mean, I don't think that's, representative of the whole swath of Hamilton-Wenham. So I think, but yeah, I mean, I think they have a really good top six, and yeah, you really can probably make a case to flip-flop five and six. I feel pretty comfortable with the top four, but I really you could certainly make a case to flip-flop five and six for sure.
All right. Last one we'll do today might have been one of the toughest, I think. That's St. John's Prep. Now, why is it tough? They win a ton of titles. I'm not even sure if I mentioned this to you, but do you realize how many championships they've won since the start of the 21st century in MIAA sanctioned sports? Now, I know they have things like mountain biking and fencing and whatnot that don't get recognized as MIAA championship sports. But of the MIAA championship sports, how many state titles do you think they've won?
It depends what you count. I mean, the swimming is what, like 10 at least. So it's got to be
Um,
in the lot. I mean, it's got to be, yeah, in the 20s, the 30s, something like this. I mean, I don't know.
yeah, it's 64.
See, that's got to count fencing and all that stuff. That can't be
No,
that. That's too many. It's not enough. There's too many seasons, right? I mean,
no, we got
I guess wrestling's probably got like 10 too. So 20, but that's only 20.
well, I mean you have I can go through it here. We got what? Four in hockey, one in basketball, four in cross country, three in volleyball, five in wrestling, five in skiing. Uh,
Skiing. Yeah, I forgot skiing.
eh, yeah, swimming is 17.
Okay, so seven. So I miscount. Yeah, I mean that's pretty.
Football is four, golf is eight,
Yeah, okay, that's a lot.
a couple of boys soccer, four boys tennis, six lacrosse, a baseball. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. So, how do you narrow that down? And there have been some fantastic teams that did not win titles that, by anybody's measure, would be an all-time great team at the school. They just did not win the state title. So because there are so many state champions to pick from,
It's a tough task. What do you got? I mean, because you could make all 13, theoretically, all 13 teams could be a swim team, and
yeah, right,
who's going to read that? I mean, I don't know. To quote the great Bill Kaporis, nobody ever went. You never filled up 5,000 people in a gym to watch a science experiment. So I mean,
right,
it's hard. I mean, this has to be the hardest one, and I think it's the one that's going to have the most debate for sure. So I
yeah.
certainly don't envy. I'm glad I get to do this one blind instead of having to, do it with my eyes open.
Well, I think, right off the bat of the Matt Antonelli, Johnny McCarthy football team, 2002. That might be the best prep football team of this century, talent for talent, but they didn't win the Super Bowl. 12-1, lost to Everett, what, 13-7 that game?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, you know, and that's just one example, So I did leave off some unbelievable teams. We're sticking here strictly with state champions, and um, it's literally the only sport I have to say that, or the only school I have to say that about here.
So
So
that's tough. I mean, there's already some teams that I would have in my list, and maybe even in the top five that weren't state champions. So now I gotta like readjust my what do you call it, compass here a little bit.
yeah, and I mean, again, how do you split hairs between teams that have won, five state titles or 17 state? It's just it's crazy. So I picked five different sports for the five different state champions. Are you ready?
I hope so.
Okay. And crazily enough, they're all semi-recent, which goes against like what you've been saying. But let's get right to it, okay? The 2021-22 men's hockey team, okay? So by my count, they've won three state titles. They've been to five state finals, including a North Division One final. I didn't count that, and nine state semifinal berths in the last 15 years alone. So that's 60% chance they're reaching at least the semifinals. Pretty good. This team probably is a tick better than the rest. And that's another great squad I left off. I mean, talent for talent, that 2011 team is probably the best team of the decade. And they lose in overtime to Malden Catholic in the Super 8 final, and yet they don't make this list. It's insane. I mean, would you agree that talent-wise, that and they had five guys get drafted by the NHL
Yeah,
next
I
year?
don't think it's. I mean, they. If it was my list, they're on the list, and they might be in the. I mean, they. With all due respect to Tommy Sarney and the lacrosse players, I mean, they would destroy. You could take the first line off, and the second line with Sam Kirker on it would destroy the recent teams. They would have, they would have no problem beating Winchester. They wouldn't need the 2011 team. Colin Blackwell would have two hat tricks against Winchester. He wouldn't need a goal that a lot of people think didn't count, right? So
Yeah.
we're having some fun. Those
We
guys
are
got
having
their
some fun,
rings,
yes.
and
And
I don't
I
have any
am going with
rings,
the
but.
caveat that in a school that has 64 state titles, I'm picking 13 state champions. So,
So the way I looked at it was if we matched them up, who would win? And I think that's interesting that we looked at it differently. But
yeah, yeah, I do too.
to me, and it's a discussion for a winter podcast. But the quality of hockey in 2011 in the state compared to, I mean, honest to God, like you could make a case that the 2014 Beverly team could play with the 2023 prep team. Not the 22 team. I think the 22 team was a level above. I think you've got the correct team in the top five here. I think, and I'll rank them now. I'm going to put them at number two. And the reason is because they destroyed Zavarian in that state final. On a mission, one of the best single game performances I've ever seen by Sarni. Left no doubt. Tremendous team defensively, tremendous team physically. But again, I just think, the quality of hockey in the Commonwealth. I mean, anybody would tell you just the number of college players and it's declined a bit,
Yeah, we
even
could
at the
talk for
Division One
two
level.
hours on a
So
podcast about that alone. You're right.
I do think that and I know even the coaches don't necessarily agree that they rave about the Sarnie team, but for my money, but Blackwell, Pinot, Kirker, I mean, for crying out loud, Pinot was like a third liner, and he's still playing hockey today.
Yeah. Well, consider this, Willie, okay? So the first line of 2011, and to reiterate, they're not on this list, but the first line in 2011, you had Colin Blackwell, who I want to say off the top of my head had 64 points. You had Sam Kirker, who I want to say had 56. And you had a freshman named Cole Eisman who played 1 year at the prep before he went
Shane,
on to what? Did he go into the national program and he played at UNH for a while? He played in the
yeah,
A.
Shane Cole's his brother, who I think just got drafted. Shane,
Yes.
quite a
Shane,
few
yeah,
Heisman's
thank
out
you.
there.
Shane had 50 points. So 50 plus point guys in the first line. This prep team, and I'm not comparing, I'm just making this as a comparable scoring type thing. They had nine different guys who had between 19 and 29 points. So it was much more balanced. There was no one individually as talented as those three guys, but it's just how the game has changed and how the sport has changed at the high school level. So they did it with balance. They had that unbelievable double overtime win over BC High in the state semifinals. They're down, they're top ranked. They're the number one seed. They were favored to win, obviously, and BC High scored and then just suffocated them. We both know Flats, John Flaherty, the BC High coach, who does an outstanding job with whatever team he has. He just sucked the life out of that prep team. They called timeout with about 70 seconds to go, face off. They win it. They come back. They score with like 51 seconds left. Then they win it in double overtime to go to the state final, where, as you said, they beat Zavarian. Okay, number two for you. Let's move on here to the 2022 St. John's Prep football team. This is the one, Willie, that their third Super Bowl in five Super Bowl seasons. Obviously, there wasn't one during the COVID year or that fall two season they played, but they had won one in 18, they won one in 19, beat CM both times in the final. This time, they go 11 and 2 overall. They beat Springfield Central, which had scored 571 points. Prep, believe it or not, was a huge underdog in this game. Huge underdog. No one gave them a chance. They not only won, they shut them out 13 nothing. They've probably never had a receiving core as good as they had on that team. Janelle Aguero, who's obviously at Georgia now, Jesse O'Fury of Salem, who's at Rutgers and is in for a really big year for them. Stephon Patrick, they combined for over 100 catches, over 1,600 yards, and close to 20 touchdowns from the two quarterbacks was Aiden Driscoll and Deacon Robillard. Um, I mean, they probably had the best secondary in the state with Aguero, O'Fury back there. Was it Santi Quisero and was it Lucas Veria? Lucas Veria was the other one. Mason McSweeney, Alex Bajoris, who became, was a great wrestler for them. Johnny DeGratis, Marcus Avery, tremendous defense. Where do you put this team?
This is a really hard team to rank. This is a really hard team to rank because I go through my different progressions. I look at the team on paper. Jesse O'Fury's like my favorite receiver that we've had around here in the last 15 or 20 years. Janelle Aguero speaks for himself. As you said, Stephon Patrick in any other era would have been a 1,000-yard guy, and he's
Yeah.
playing third banana to
Imagine
these
him playing for
guys.
one of Steve Dombrowski's Swansea teams earlier
Or
this
even
century.
just put him on the prep last year, right? Like, you know. But the quarterback play, not great. Two losses, not great. Um, Big asterisk with the weather in the Super Bowl. I think, it's not like they devised some Belichickian
Same for
scheme.
both teams, though. Same
No,
for
I
both
understand,
teams.
but it'd be one thing if they changed up their blitz patterns and really came up with some exotic way to beat them, like the Patriots did to the Rams. It didn't feel that way. So,
I don't know.
you know,
See, that's where I differentiate from you. I think that Chris Tolios, the defensive coordinator, came up with a spectacular game plan. Now, I remember because I was sick at home with COVID, and I'm watching that game on the TV broadcast. You were there, right? You and the late great
Nope.
Gene DePlacido, weren't you?
Wasn't there? No, and I mean, if there was a big change in their scheme, I didn't read about it. I mean, I remember just that they dominated field position because you know, for all the 7,000 kids Springfield gets to go to their school, they didn't have a punter for crying out loud, and so every time
But
they
I think what
punted
they
the
did
ball
was they
away,
really kept what's the name of the quarterback? It was like at Nebraska now or something.
Pop Watson.
Yeah, Watson. They really kept him from improvising, making plays happen with his legs on a day when it was not made for throwing the ball. They really kept him in that pocket with a ton of pressure. Um, I don't know. I thought they did a fantastic defensive job there. So,
I don't remember reading about it, the scheme. I don't remember. Oh, we did, like for instance, when Roger Day changed everything up to beat Gloucester. I don't remember anything like that, But the talent is the talent, and they did get revenge on at least one of the teams that beat them. They made the change when they had to. This is tough. I'm going to put him number one. I'm going to put him number one. The talent is the
wow.
talent. 5 years from now, Aguero's going to be playing on Sundays. O'Fury might get a chance to play on Sundays or maybe on Saturdays in the fall in one of these crazy feeder leagues. So I think if we did this again, once all that happens, we're going to look at this team even more so. So even though I said all those mean things about them, I'm going to put them at number one.
I don't know how mean they were, but okay.
Well, I think I could see them taking offense, but you know what? We're doing a show here, and you're the prep, so you can take it.
I should mention too, Carson Brown, great season running the ball and had a big game in the Super Bowl, grinded out some really tough yards in that bad weather there.
Yeah, well, great. Yeah, that's the thing. It was a field position game, and the fact that and it's a three-phase game, right? I mean, you can, and that is a coaching thing. That is a coaching thing. Like if you don't have special teams, you don't have a punter and a kicking game. Shame on you, is what I say. You can draw up a way to score 587 points, but if you can't kick the ball away, I mean, that's the simplest thing to do. You got to spend time on that in practice. I mean, easy for me to say, but that's a coaching thing, and the prep pays attention to all three phases, to their credit.
I'm going to move on to the 2023 boys lacrosse state champions. This is the third in a run, a current run of five straight state championships for the lacrosse team. You tell me, Willie. I mean, mate, we're used to this in football and lacrosse and hockey and whatnot. With St. John's doing very well in these, big team sports. Um, I feel like these guys get by far the most hate. You might say, oh, of course, prep football is going to roll their way into the state semis or finals or hockey or whatever, but these guys, it almost seems personal for a lot of people that they just hate this team. I would say you're on the sidelines or you don't cover it or anything like that. What's your take on it?
I mean, uh,
I mean, it's
I
such a
don't.
chasm, I think, between now the best teams and other really, really, really good Division One teams. It's just so different.
I mean, I don't want to pick on that poor hockey team that beat Winchester, but because I kind of did that with the when I was talking about Blackwell, but I think they got a lot of hate. I think they got their fair amount of hate
But that was a
online, and
one instance thing.
but
And
no, I think
as you
there's
and I
just some
have both said
jealousy.
many, many times, whether that goal went in or not is not up for us to decide. And maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But St. John's Prep clearly scored a goal late in the second period that was not recognized by the officials on ice. So that can be, and maybe that's no solace to Winchester because it was 2-2 as the final seconds were ticking down. But if that goal's allowed, then they're never even in that position. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I'm
again,
just
but I
trying
would
to
say
play it even
a
here.
lot of the hate for lacrosse team comes from just a few towns that are probably pretty jealous. Um, I don't think it's like widespread.
I don't know about that.
I think it comes primarily from Hingham. They don't watch the show, so I'll just say it. Who cares? They can hit me up on Twitter, but and the rest of it is the fact that they don't have a rival, and if they do have a rival, it's BC High, which is another
Oh yeah,
Catholic.
they definitely have a rival in BC
I think
High.
it's
Yeah.
baked into the culture of the sport. Like, rich kids, lax bros, prep school. Like, what was the name of that movie with the rich kids there?
American
I
Pie?
don't know, but
They're playing
it's just
lacrosse.
it's lacrosse. It's the main line. It's like, it's baked in, and those guys work really hard and they love their sport and all this kind of stuff. But I think, the sport itself kind of invites that kind of stuff, and hey, it is what it is. I mean, and you know what? They like to dance around with their rings. They certainly embrace it a little bit on social media, Rodney Harrison style. Not the team accounts, but certainly the individual players. I've seen some things, so it fuels them, and they keep winning, and they can just do the old Zolak. They hate us because they ain't us, and feel good about themselves, and who cares?
Well, the reason I chose this team out of the five, this is 2023 lacrosse, is a few reasons. I think they had both Jimmy Ayers and Jake Vanna, which, Ayers is probably the best player in prep history. Not the leading scorer or anything like that, but he's probably the best player in prep history, at least scoring wise, offensively, I should say. He's had two fabulous seasons down at Johns Hopkins. He's got two more to go there. They also had Jake Vanna, who seven-time state champion across three sports, phenomenal athlete. Lacrosse was probably his best sport. He's playing now at Princeton. You had an elite face-off guy in Chris Esposito. You had three sophomore defensemen who all have just graduated this past spring. They're all going to play Division One. You had a great goalie in Gavin Kornitsky. You had a young Luke Kelly who's going to Michigan now. He just graduated. You had Cam McCarthy, Lucas Veria, Josh Harmon, on and on and on. This was also the only team in the prep that beat national powerhouse Staples of Connecticut. They usually play each year. Staples usually defeats St. John's, or at least they have in recent years. But this team beat Staples 12-11 in overtime, I want to say. And while they went 20, was it 21 and 2 or 22 and 2? One of those losses really wasn't a loss. It was a game scrimmage against Brunswick of New Jersey, which is another national power. But the prep coaches insisted that it count on their record. So while it wasn't recognized by the MA, they counted in their official, win-loss type thing. They smoked their way through the playoffs, including a very surprising state semifinal, 14-3 win over Hingham. And then in the final, they're down to BC High by 4 or 5 goals during the fourth quarter. They score 7 goals and they win the state title 16-14. So your pick there, Willie.
I'm gonna put them at three. Interesting. So they were better. I mean, because the team the previous year had both Ayers and Sarni too, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
but I guess these guys were better. I guess the junior, the Vanna class was better than the Sarni class, and they were a year older and more mature and whatnot. But I just think for me, the presence of Jimmy Ayers, at the height of his powers, probably elevates this team certainly above, for me, 24 and 25. I don't really remember what the record of the 22 team was. Maybe that was one of the teams that lost to BC in the middle of the season because they took the game off or whatever. But I'm going to put him number three again, as I've talked about with the star power. I don't think you'll get much disagreement about Ayers. I mean, certainly, the kid that played for the Cannons there from 2010 is really good too. I can't remember his name. He was the coach at Beverly for like 10 minutes. Jimmy
Jimmy
something.
Fahey.
Fahey, yeah, another Jimmy. So two Jimmys and no Joes over there.
Yeah, yeah, no Joe's, right?
Um, but for me, just it's just the presence of Ayers at the height of his prowess. I mean, look at what he's gone on to do. I'm going to put him at number three.
Okay. 2022 boys soccer. Well, of course it's boys. Boys soccer. 22-0-1, won the Catholic Conference title, 16 shutouts, allowed just 7 goals. Division One state champions, 5 straight playoff shutouts. Beat Needham in the final, 2-0. They'd had 3 straight 1-0 wins prior to that. Yanni Andrikopoulos, insane goals against them. It was like 0.26. And that great defense with Callum Rigby, Alex Borkland, Graham Kramer. Chance Prouty. Vanna was a midfielder on that team. Ethan Bezanson, Garrison Murphy. One of the all-time great, probably the best prep soccer team, certainly of this century and maybe of all time.
So that's interesting you say that because I would have gone with the 2006 team, led by Sean Bishop, undefeated state champs. Again, I go star power, right? And I don't know that this team had a Haley Dowd type, had a Ari Bazanson type, which they did have Ari's brother Ethan. But great team, right? Top to bottom. The whole greater than the sum of the parts, which is a great thing in sports. But in
Yeah.
terms of the star power, I'm gonna put them number five just because I don't. It's not like they have a Power Five college player out there. I mean, they played a suffocating team game, great defense. But just in terms of matching them up against the rest of these prep teams, I'm gonna put them number five because I just don't see the memorable Hall of Fame star power college star player.
Okay. That leaves us with one team left, and that would be the 2021/22 wrestling team. Now, we know of all the legendary coaches that have headed up the teams at St. John's Prep over the years. Manny Costa would be right up there near the very top. All-time Massachusetts and New England wins leader in wrestling. Um, and this team was his absolute very best. They went undefeated on the season. They won Division One North. They won Division One state title. They won their first ever All-State championship. They won the New England championship. Um, all they did was win every single time they took the floor. You had Tyler Knox, who was a national champion. You had, trying to think, Ross and Iwanicki was another standout. You had the Shoblin brothers, Adam and Alex, who, they were standouts throughout the postseason. They won their, 23rd straight Catholic Central League title. They won all the holiday and tournament championships they won. They had almost a dozen academic All-Americans. I mean, this was a team for the ages, Willie.
I got four left, and I like them at four. I like the star power, right? Because to me, the wins in wrestling, well, yeah, I mean, you got all the weight classes filled, the dual meet records, you know, I'm surprised they only had five state titles. That's surprise. I would have guessed more. I would have guessed more. I would have guessed they were more in line with the swim team, but I guess not. But I think this is certainly the best team. Tyler Knox still going at it at Stanford.
Yeah,
He could be in the Olympics someday. I wouldn't be surprised if Iwanicki is a national team guy someday. And the Shoblins are Division III college guys, national type guys. So that's nothing to shake a stick at. So I think this team, as far as wrestling goes, certainly has the star power. I mean, and to have multiple of those guys at the same time, right? Because you're talking the prep has had some star wrestlers in the past, the Ryan Malos, the Pedros, but as you mentioned, first all-state title because you do need more than one of those
that's
guys
right. That's
to
right.
win that all-state title. So, great team, very memorable, and again, to win New England's is really really impressive too. So, four, I'm happy for. I mean, I could make a case for two or three if it wasn't blind. Maybe I would have put him a little higher. But yeah, I'm okay with it.
Okay. All right. Well, that is it for today. And again, we're having fun with this. And I like the
No,
fact
no Connaughton in the top five, huh?
item is six. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's tough. Like, how do you
So I,
differentiate?
I look at the teams that they beat. And I mean, to beat Central at the height of its powers, and then they beat a team from Central Mass that had like that kid that played uh, tight end for the Green Bay Packers on it. I mean, wow.
I think for me, I don't want to say that was just like a moment in time, but of these teams, they're the only one that hasn't had sustained success, that program. Whereas,
Yeah,
football
interesting.
obviously, football obviously has, lacrosse has, wrestling has, hockey has, I mean, soccer. And that's not, hey, I mean, what those guys did, when they go 25-1, um, and had a great year. And of course, Pat obviously goes on to Notre Dame and then the NBA with Portland. And Milwaukee, and who did he get traded to now?
I forget. It's just when you think of the, I mean, if you had the Preps Mount Rushmore of the 21st century, right? I mean, Connaughton's on it, Blackwell's got to be on it. Maybe Antonelli and either Thomas or Aguero. So it's just interesting.
You
I
Knox,
sort of lean
honestly, you
towards
could
that
make
st
a not
I
national
sort of lean
champion.
towards that star power. You sort of lean towards let me pick out a few teams from the dynasty. So that's an interesting way to look at it. I
Yeah.
think it's cool. I think it's cool.
I also think it's ironic that, what do you say, both times I picked exactly what your order was for Hamilton and Bishop Fenwick,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yet yours was different than mine. So that's what
Well,
makes
you
this
talk
great, I
about
think.
you talk about the sort of how we didn't have Fenwick boys basketball or softball. I mean, no prep baseball either, which just goes to show you like
Yeah.
and that's sort of like if any, how many times did they lose in the state final in the 21st century? Like five times.
Yeah, maybe.
So, so,
Yeah.
so if any of those one games goes differently, right? You're talking about vaulting from not on the list to possibly in the top five or six. I mean, I feel like one game, it's, hey, that's why we love sports because those games are so important, right? That one game that cost the 2007 Patriots, but at the same time, it's crazy that one game, that one mistake makes that much difference. It's just a little it's wild, but that's how it is. That's what you sign up for at St. John's, that to be compared to the real titans of history. So
Yeah.
that's just that I think it's fascinating. I mean, I could talk about this all day.
And let's be honest. One of the points of an exercise like this is to get people talking and debating. And as two Irish guys here, we're certainly not averse to having the occasional argument about things we feel passionate about. So this is a great way to, maybe, hey, you can think I'm nuts for some of the rankings I have, or someone could say that you know what the hell you're talking about, Williams, or whatever. It's like, hey, we've heard it all before, and it's fine. And in this case, it's healthy. It's good. It's like what
Yeah,
you
I
need
think
to
it's
hear.
fun. I think it's not math, right? There's no right answer. There's all different ways to, and this is why the rankings and the talk radio conversations, this is why it's fun. There's no ill will.
I mean, you and I can say like, oh, unequivocally, that 2013 Fenwick team is the best team at Fenwick of the last 25 years. And you and I are in agreement on that. And, it's like we're the so-called, high school experts in this area, whatever. But, you know, somebody who watched that 2016 girls basketball team could be like, no way, that basketball team was dominant. And that's what makes it great. I mean, that you can make your own list. And, I think we might have said this last time, like, you know, you like the Beatles, I like the Stones, someone else likes Zeppelin, someone else likes, the Replacements. I don't know. Like, there's no right or wrong answer. We just throw it out there into the ether for public consumption and, let folks have at it as they will.
Oh, it's just like, I mean, I remember arguing with so-called Red Sox beat writer at the time, 2018 best team ever, 140 wins or whatever it was. They said the 2014 would have ripped their faces off and spit on their corpse. I mean, that's just the fact as far as I'm concerned. And I look at this as the same thing, and it's fun. It's fun and it's different ages, and I'm glad that our lists don't always match up. I think that's like more fun for the audience.
Would you say the same thing? And I realize this is far before your time, but like the 70 or 72 Bruins, would they, in your opinion, beat the 2011 Bruins?
Oh God, that's a whole thing because just how much the game has changed. I mean, the goalies, right? Like what I mean, would they score,
Would they
would they
still be
make
smoking in between periods? I
well
mean,
that too, right? I mean, it's just
no
the goalies are so
videotape,
different. I mean, when you look at the number of Hall of Famers that were on the 70s Bruins, you almost have to say that they would win a game, but geez, like you said, over a 7 game series, I think, if they didn't stop smoking and drinking, they'd either be out of breath or they'd be having withdrawals. So
Well,
I don't know, that's a tough one. That is a tough
that is
one.
tough.
That I don't, because I do think that like there's a case to be made for like the modern guys because the scoring was so comparatively easy back then because the goalies just, I mean, they could barely stand up on two skates,
Well, I was
but
going to say, and the goaltending is 1,000% better. I
it's just
mean,
not even the same game, you
right.
know?
Right.
But physically, I mean, they could go at your knees. I mean, I don't know how Andy Ferentz and Sean Thornton would have responded to some of those hits back in the day that they used to level in the 70s, going at knees and, throwing sticks in faces and all that kind of stuff. I mean,
Well,
it
and how would
probably,
like an Esposito or Busick go towards the net with Chara standing there,
I
or
mean, eventually,
Adam
I think.
McQuaid, standing there.
Eventually, I think in the third period of such a game, you'd be like skating 3-on-3 because there'd be so many guys in a penalty box.
Mm, yeah,
I mean, that would turn into a brouhaha between those teams.
maybe a podcast for another day. Yeah, well, let's end it on that one. Like I said, we're really enjoying doing the summer series as we gear up for the start of the 2025-2016 high school sports season. He's Matt Williams. I'm Phil Stacy. This is Bandied About. Thanks for listening and watching, and we'll see you in another one soon.